Morse, Barnes, Brown, and Pendleton has focused on technology and business issues for small and medium companies and even large companies for many, many years. We represent companies that provide software as a service and other kinds of hosting services and services over the internet. And we work with businesses of all stripes, helping them plan for cloud computing, helping them deal with software legal issues, helping them deal with intellectual property issues, dealing with privacy and security issues. U.S. export controls are surprisingly important in ways that most businesses don't appreciate. You are subject to U.S. criminal sanctions if you send anything outside the country not in compliance with U.S. export control law. All of which means that if you're going to let some third party host your data, depending upon what the data is, you may not be able to have it stored in certain countries. So anytime you move a commodity or a material or even technical information from our shores someplace else, you've got to do it in compliance with U.S. law, or you can have some serious, even criminal penalties.
As corporate lawyers, we have this term called doing business. And it's a term of art that we use, but it's actually governed by state law. Every state has a statute that describes what constitutes doing business in that particular state. And where does this come into play? It comes into play in a couple of places. It comes into play in regards to taxation. If you are doing business as defined in the statute within a state, you're subject to taxation within that state. It also comes into play on the legal side. If you are doing business in a state and you are not registered or qualified to do business in that state, you are subject to not being able to raise certain defenses in lawsuits and not being able to bring certain claims if you're doing business in the state and haven't registered or qualified to do business. It's pretty clear if you're running a rack of servers in Texas, in New York, in Massachusetts, and you're generating income based on those, you're probably doing business in those particular states and are going to need to register or qualify as a foreign corporation to do business there. And you're probably going to be subject to some taxation there as well.
If you're going to expect the law to recognize your rights in a trade secret, then you have to take reasonable measures to maintain secrecy. So if you're entrusting some of your trade secret information to a third party to host it, you better know that that third party is obligated to respect the confidentiality, or you may be losing the right to claim it as a trade secret.
When you're operating a business in the cloud, there are a whole host of regulations that may come into play and affect how you do things and what you have to do. Sarbanes-Oxley, HIPAA as it relates to health insurance, Gramm-Leach-Bliley with respect to financial information and data sharing and privacy. All of these things come into play with any business that's operating in the cloud and that's running their services over the cloud, and they will dictate how you have to protect your information or other people's information that you may be transmitting. Massachusetts imposes an awful lot of regulations on how private financial data has to be stored, and that comes into play with us. We store a lot of our documents on a server off-site, and we need to take steps to make sure that that's properly protected.
When you're about to enter into a cloud computing contract, a contract for cloud services, typically software as a service, but maybe other services over the internet, there are a lot of important issues that can affect your rights and your ability to comply with the law. A lot of users who don't read the fine print may miss the fact that the contract says that the cloud provider can amend the contract at will at any time, simply by notifying you, and sometimes not even by notifying you. You're supposed to go back to the internet and read the contract periodically. That's not a very secure environment, particularly if you are entrusting them with some trade secret information, or you have some responsibilities under HIPAA or Gramm-Leach-Bliley. So you have to be very concerned about the obligations of your cloud provider to help you meet your legal requirements. When you're contracting for these services, it's critical to make sure that your provider is obligated to act in a manner that you're comfortable with, that will protect your intellectual property, that will protect your private information, and that will enable you to meet your legal compliance requirements. And this all requires a contract that has the right terms and conditions in it. Business continuity becomes a very serious issue when you're storing your business information with a third party. If you're allowing your financial information, some technical information, personnel information, account receivable information to be held by a third party, not by you, but some other location, what happens if that third party goes bankrupt or just goes out of business? How do you get your information? How do you know you're entitled to it? How do you know you can use it in the format they'll give it to you? These are all issues that you need to consider as you enter into a cloud computing contract. Cloud computing raises critical issues for businesses. They're also unavoidable. Just a few months ago, Adobe announced that it was giving up selling packaged software and was moving basically everything to the cloud. So wherever you're at now, you just know that increasingly your technology infrastructure, your business processes, all the services that you need to run your business are going to be provided more and more by cloud providers. And making sure that as you roll out your contract program to get these services that will involve your mission critical information and business functions, you've got to make sure that it's being done in a responsible way. So cloud computing is critical for many businesses already, will become increasingly critical as time goes on.